Can everyone hear me? Cool. So today I'm going to be walking you through something that seems like sci-fi, but to be honest, it's just turning plain old photos into 3D models. And no, this doesn't include any AI hallucination or whatever. It's just actual geometry. And yeah, I got to call this talk The Magic of Making Reality Digital, which sounds like a TED talk, but as I said, really, it's just me, my phone camera, and a slightly overworked laptop. Okay, so what is photogrammetry, or how does Google know what your house looks like? So maybe let's start with the big word, photogrammetry. And it's not just the type of like a photography degree or something. It's actually just the process of taking a lot of overlapping photos of something and then using a software to figure out what that thing looks like in 3D. So as I said, it's how Google knows what your house probably looks like, and it's how game developers turn a boring alleyway into a cinematic crime scene. Basically, it's how we trick software into understanding space with using nothing but photos. And here's another great example. So I'm sure we've all played Grand Theft Auto. So, you know, the game where you commit crimes, but in extremely photorealistic locations, that realism comes from photogrammetry. So Rockstar scanned a few landmarks in LA and they dropped them right into their game. So yeah, you could, I guess, go sightseeing while trying to evade police helicopters or whatever. And then I also mentioned Google Earth. Earth also uses 3D buildings, mountains, cities, and this is all done from thousands of aerial images stitched together for this photogrammetry. But then they also do use 360 photography for the street view. Okay, so how does it work? So the first step is to capture what you're trying to capture. And basically what you need to do is just take tons of photos of something from multiple different angles. The key here is that try and capture as many overlapping photos as possible. The more overlap, the better. So it's basically a photo shoot for with very needy requirements. If you've ever, I guess, taken pictures of your friends or something for Instagram, you've pretty much done photogrammetry because you've been taking pictures of them standing in the same place from multiple different angles. And step two is where you let the software do the magic. So the software I was using here is Metashape. So what the software does, it will scan your photos for distinct features like corners, lines, textures, and finds where these pictures show up across different images. It's like facial recognition, but for rocks, walls, and oddly shaped trees and everything. So the more matches, the more confident the model can be. So if you actually look at this model here of this plant that I have, I know it looks like a bunch of dots, but then those dots later will be transformed into an actual 3D model. So yeah, as I was saying, these little dots, it's basically going to play a game of Where's Waldo, but then with dots. So the dots help to connect and actually make the 3D model. And then the next step is to reconstruct using those little dots. So this is where triangulation comes in. I don't know if you guys maybe focused in high school, but then it's basic geometry. So triangulation in simple terms means if you know where 2 points, well, if you have two cameras, if you know where they were when you took a picture and you know the angle that it was at, you can actually figure out the distance of where that object is. And that's how photogrammetry determines the object, the length, and everything from just pictures. And finally, you end up with a 3D model that looks like this. Obviously, you can clean it up. I didn't get the time to do this, but if you really wanted to clean it up, you could put it in Blender and everything and just clean this model up. And yeah, it will wrap all the textures around for you once it's done doing what it does. So to wrap it all up, the future is dimensional. So why use flat photos if you can just make 3D models? Basically, all you need to do is take a bunch of overlapping photos, toss them into a software like Metashape or Reality Capture, let your computer set up it, and then boom, you have a 3D model.